Good afternoon, sir. Your appointment is scheduled for 4 p.m. The meeting with the wedding planner is about to commence. The voice of James's assistant crackled through the intercom. He cast a quick look at his Rolex before shifting his gaze to the Forbes magazine resting on his desk, showcasing him on the cover. Inform her that I will arrive in 5 minutes. He replied, easing his tie as the burden of the impending wedding pressed down on him. Suddenly, the door swung open and in walked Victoria Chase, his fiancée, adorned in a designer dress that seemed to surpass the monthly earnings of many. Jamie, my dear, we must have a conversation about the guest list. I believed we reached a conclusion on that yesterday, James remarked, his fingers combing through his thinning, silver-streaked hair. We did, Victoria responded, perched on the edge of his desk, her perfectly manicured nails tapping rhythmically on the glass. So, what's the reason your ex-wife's name appears on it? A smile flickered across James's lips, yet his eyes held a chilling detachment. Because, my dear, I wish for her to realize what she has lost. Victoria lifted her brows in surprise. That's quite trivial. I know, James said with a smirk, but I enjoy it. 6 years prior, Sarah Thompson had walked away from him, claiming he was too consumed by his startup to nurture a genuine relationship. With a tech vision valued in the billions and a wedding to a woman 10 years his junior approaching, James aimed to remind Sarah of what she had let slip away. The intercom emitted another buzz. The wedding planner is ready and waiting. I'm on my way, James declared, smoothing the fabric of his bespoke suit. Victoria, you have to believe me, Sarah must see this. You never mention her, Victoria remarked with curiosity. Was it truly that terrible? James's jaw tightened. She departed when the tech vision was just beginning to soar, claiming I was emotionally distant, that my work held more importance to me than family. He let out a derisive laugh. And see where that led me. To me, Victoria said with a playful tone, planting a kiss on his cheek, and our perfect wedding in 3 weeks. As they stepped into the conference room, the wedding planner meticulously arranged sample centerpieces. Yet James's attention drifted away from the decor. He couldn't shake the memory of the day Sarah had left, the uncertainty reflected in her gaze just before she shut the door behind her. The voice of Mr. Mitchell, the wedding planner, pulled him back to the matter of the seating arrangements. Place Sarah Thompson at table 8, James instructed with conviction. Ensure she has an unobstructed perspective of all that she has departed from. Victoria offered a soft squeeze to his arm. Do you really think so? Optimistic. James responded, retrieving his phone. His thumb lingered above Sarah's old number, still preserved in his contacts. I've decided to hand her the invitation myself. Now that would be something to witness, Victoria remarked with a chuckle. James gazed at the screen, reflecting on Sarah's last words. There will come a time when you understand what truly matters, James. I sincerely hope it won't be too late. He smiled, assured that she would at last grasp what was truly important. His realm, his breathtaking betrothed, and his idyllic existence. Unbeknownst to him, the meticulous scheme he had crafted was teetering on the brink of collapse. The suburban street appeared exactly as James recalled. Sarah's charming 2-story residence captured attention, its vibrant blue door and abundant flower boxes marking it as distinctly her own. He switched off his Tesla and lingered for a moment, the wedding invitation in his pocket weighing down on him. A child's bicycle rested abandoned in the front yard. Strange, he mused. Sarah had never brought up the idea of having children. The doorbell's familiar chime resonated, prompting James to adjust his tie and practice his smile. On my way, Sarah's voice echoed from within. As the door creaked open, she stood there, exuding an annoyingly captivating charm. Her hair had been trimmed, yet her eyes retained that inviting warmth he once found utterly captivating. Is that you, James? She blinked, a look of true astonishment crossing her face. What are you? Hi, Sarah, he said, taking out the cream-colored envelope. Exclusive dispatch. She accepted it, a look of bewilderment crossing her features. You traveled all this distance to present me with a... Her voice trailed off as she glanced at the card. So you're tying the knot? In just 3 weeks? To Victoria Chase? Perhaps you've come across her on social media, boasting 3 million followers. He felt compelled to include that final detail, yet Sarah's reaction remained unchanged, not quite aligning with his expectations. Instead, she appeared troubled. Well done, she remarked thoughtfully. But what's the reason for sending me an invite? It's been 6 years since we last spoke, James. Out of nowhere, a loud crash echoed from within. Drawn by the joyful sound of children's laughter, Sarah quickly turned her head. Gentlemen, what did I express regarding indoor play? Apologies, Mom. A multitude of voices echoed. James attempted to peer beyond her into the house, yet she deftly moved to obscure his sight. Thank you for the invitation, she stated with conviction. I will consider it. He waved his hand in the direction of the commotion. Who might that be? My children, she replied. Her tone was sharp. Children? Are you referring to multiple instances? James inquired, arching an eyebrow. She clenched the door handle firmly. It was a pleasure to see you, James. Congratulations once more on your engagement. Mother, Tommy has taken my controller. A faint voice called out from within. Absolutely not. Daniel is not telling the truth. Enough, you two. Stop it. A different voice interjected. James' thoughts spiraled. 3 distinct voices. 3 unique boys. I really need to go, Sarah said quickly. Wishing you all the best on your special day. The door shut just as he was about to pose another question. Leaning back in his car, James retrieved his phone, deep in thought. It has been 6 years since they parted ways. Had she been expecting when they parted ways? Negative. He believed she would have informed me. Yet, as he drove off, uncertainty began to seep in. Sarah felt a wave of unease wash over her as she read the invitation. She had felt fear. James Mitchell had not risen to the heights of a tech giant by dismissing his instincts. Is Mom not here? Michael inquired, glancing around the corner while Sarah rested against the shut door. She nodded, her fingers tightening around the invitation, crumpling it in her grasp. Return to your homework, dear, she said, even with all 3 boys already gathered closely. The hallway, with their matching blue eyes, mirroring his own, brimmed with curiosity. Who was that individual? Thomas inquired. Someone I once knew, Sarah remarked, her voice filled with tension. Daniel, ever the keen observer, struck true. Could that have been our father? Sarah settled onto the stairs. Her boys quickly clustered around her, resembling tiny guardians. 6 years of meticulously crafted tranquility were now at risk due to a single unforeseen visit. Indeed, she confessed gently. That was your dad. Michael's voice emerged softly. Is he aware of our existence? Not yet, Sarah responded, drawing them in closer. However, he may do so in the near future. A buzz from her phone signaled a message from her sister Claire. Urgent situation, please reach out to me. Sarah was well aware of what it entailed. Claire was employed at TechVision in the realm of public relations, where information spread rapidly. Gentlemen, please return to your studies. Call needs to be made. In her cozy home office, filled with papers from her 4th grade class, Sarah picked up the phone to call Claire. He arrived at my house, Sarah recounted, the moment Claire answered, holding a wedding invitation. I understand, Claire said after a moment of reflection. Sarah, it's important that you share this with him. Sarah gazed through the window, watching her sons as they kicked the soccer ball around in the backyard. Yet they find joy, Claire. We are filled with joy. James is tying the knot. Why complicate things at this moment? He invited you to his wedding just to flaunt it in front of you. And if you arrive with 3 children who bear a striking resemblance to him, who says I'm going? Sarah cut in. Sarah, you've been the sole caretaker of those boys for 6 years. You've justified his actions, toiled away at 2 jobs to provide them with a better life. Now he's attempting to show that he's doing just fine on his own. Sarah observed as Thomas assisted Daniel following a tumble. Michael hurriedly approached, a band-aid in hand, ever ready just as she instructed him. Indeed, she finally acknowledged. However, I will not allow him to cause them any harm. Absolutely not. Perhaps they are entitled to understand him. Perhaps he is entitled to that knowledge. Claire spoke softly. Once the call ended, Sarah noticed her boys huddled together. The device she uses for her writing. Mom, is this the one? Michael inquired. Displayed on the screen was an article from Forbes featuring James Mitchell, the CEO of TechVision, renowned as Silicon Valley's most sought-after bachelor. Sarah gazed at her children, the hair of their father, those eyes of his determined expression, and resolved to take action. Prepare your suits, gentlemen. We are attending a wedding. The invitation rested invitingly on her desk. James Mitchell and Victoria Chase. We would be delighted to have you join us. Sarah found herself smiling quietly. They were completely unaware of the nature of the company that was approaching. Is Mommy not here? Michael inquired. Glancing around the corner, Sarah rested against the shut door. She nodded, her fingers clutching the invitation with determination. She clenched it tightly in her fist. Please return to your homework, dear, she remarked. Even with all three boys already gathering closely, the corridor, their strikingly similar blue eyes, identical to his, overflowing with curiosity. Who was that individual? Thomas inquired. Person from my past, Sarah remarked. Her voice was taut. Daniel, consistently the most astute. Strike the target. Could that have been our father? Sarah settled onto the stairs. Her boys quickly clustered around her, resembling tiny guardians. 6 years of meticulously crafted tranquility now hung in the balance due to a single unforeseen arrival. Absolutely, she confessed gently. That was your dad. Michael's voice emerged softly. Is he aware of our existence? Not at this moment, Sarah responded, drawing. Keep them nearby. However, he may do so in the near future. The phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. A note from her sister Claire.
Urgent situation.
Reach out to me. Sarah was well aware of what it entailed. Claire was employed in public relations at TechVision, where information spread swiftly. Young men, return to your assignments. Call needs to be made. Within her cozy little workspace, amidst a sea of papers from her 4th grade class, Sarah reached out to Claire. He arrived at my residence. As soon as Claire picked up, Sarah spoke. Accompanied by a wedding? Request for your presence. I understand. Claire responded after a moment of silence. Sarah, it's essential that you inform him. Sarah gazed through the window, observing her sons as they engaged in a lively game of soccer in the backyard. However, Claire, they are content. We are filled with joy. James is tying the knot. Why complicate things at this moment? He invited you to his wedding just to flaunt it in front of you. And if you arrive with 3 children who bear a striking resemblance to him, states, I am departing. Sarah cut in. Sarah, for 6 years you've been the sole guardian of those boys. You've justified his actions, juggled 2 jobs to provide them with a better life. Now he's attempting to show that he's doing just fine without you. Sarah observed. Thomas extended a hand to Daniel, offering support after his tumble. Michael hurriedly approached, a band-aid in hand, perpetually ready, exactly as she instructed him. Indeed, you are correct. Finally, she spoke. However, I will not allow him to cause them any harm. Absolutely not. Perhaps they are entitled to understand him. Perhaps he is entitled to uncover those truths. Claire spoke softly. Once the call ended, Sarah discovered her sons huddled together. The device she uses for her writing tasks. Mother, could this be him? Michael inquired. Displayed on the screen was an article from Forbes featuring James Mitchell, the head of TechVision and the most sought-after bachelor in Silicon Valley. Sarah gazed at her children, the hair of their father, those eyes of his determined expression, and resolved her thoughts. Prepare your suits, gentlemen. We are attending a wedding. The invitation rested invitingly on her desk. James Mitchell and Victoria Chase cordially invite you to join them. Sarah beamed quietly to herself. They were completely unaware of the nature of the company that was approaching. The ballroom at the St. Regis Hotel thrummed with the energy of Silicon Valley's elite. In the midst of it all was James, embracing accolades, as Victoria captivated the investors with her effortless charm. The table, the settings are impeccable, the wedding planner exclaimed with enthusiasm, and the list of attendees. However, James seemed oblivious. His gaze wandered repeatedly to the entrance. Sarah had not responded to his RSVP, yet an instinct whispered to him that she would appear. Jamie. Victoria beckoned him to come closer. The Rothschilds wished to discuss their investment. He mustered a smile and faced the investors. Subsequently, the whispers commenced. Initially, only gentle murmurs, then a surge of astonished breaths, until the space was enveloped in complete stillness. James pivoted on his heel. Sarah lingered in the threshold, graceful in a modest blue gown. Yet, the quietude did not stem from her. It was due to the three boys next to her, attired in coordinated ensembles, their golden locks elegantly swept to the side. His locks, those eyes of his visage, 3 times over. "Oh my goodness," Victoria murmured. The young men synchronized their movements perfectly, positioned with a sense of guardianship beside their mother. The tiniest one clutched a book with great fervor. The one in the center lifted his chin with a bold air, and the highest surveyed the space with an acuity that James identified as familiar. "Sarah." James succeeded. "Whisper soft." "Greetings, James." She advanced with purpose. The boys synchronized their movements with hers. "Best wishes on your engagement." Victoria's champagne flute tumbled from her grasp, breaking apart on the ground. No one took the initiative to tidy it up. "These are my boys." Sarah spoke with a serene demeanor. "Michael, Thomas, and Daniel." She hesitated, her gaze unwavering. "Your children." The atmosphere in the room was palpable. "To weave." James clutched a chair to steady himself. "That can't be done." Victoria erupted, shifting my focus to James. "Inform her that this cannot be done." Yet James's thoughts were in a frenzy. 6 years prior. The glance Sarah cast his way as she exited the room. The morning nausea she dismissed as mere stress. How could he have been unaware? The revelation came to me the day after my departure. Sarah murmured gently, "You found yourself deeply immersed in your series of funding. You expressed that distractions were not something you could manage." "Interruptions?" His voice trembled. "We are 10. Michael, the most ancient, declared. We enjoy the art of coding, football, and immersing oneself in literature. We've come across quite a bit of information about you, included the one featuring the book." James wavered unsteadily. 3 pairs of eyes gazed back at him. "This situation is utterly ridiculous," Victoria remarked, tone incisive. "We will require genetic testing, legal professionals." "Completed," Sarah cut in, presenting a folder. "Certificates of birth, health documentation, results from the DNA analysis." I ensured that I retained copies. The wedding planner collapsed. Yet James barely paid attention. He was captivated by the boys, his offspring, who were observing him with equal intensity. "We need to have a conversation," Sarah spoke softly. "Every one of us." The final image that lingered in James's mind as darkness enveloped him. Did Victoria just storm out? And his 3 sons dashed ahead to reach him as he tumbled down, flowing in flawless harmony, similar to his programming teams. "Presenting this. Enjoy this beverage," Sarah remarked, presenting James a refreshing glass of water. They found themselves in a quiet chamber away from the lively ballroom, far from the whispers and the bright lights. Opposite to them, the young men lounged on a sleek leather sofa, impeccably arranged. They resembled replicas of his own childhood photographs. "For how long did you intend to hide this from me?" His voice had a rough edge to it. "Eternally," Sarah responded, seated next to their children. "Then you arrived with that invitation." "I had the desire to cause you pain," James confessed. Frustration coursed through me. "We understand," Michael remarked, shattering the quiet. Your company's success has caught our attention. Mom believes you picked that instead of us. James flinched. Is that what she conveyed to you? I simply shared the truth with them. Sarah responded. It seemed like you were creating something. I chose to keep things simple. The door burst open unexpectedly. Victoria made her entrance. Her makeup was a bit smudged. All are departing. This is a catastrophe. Hold on, Vic. James began. Don't pull a Vic on me. I had no idea you were a parent to 3 children. I was unaware. Absolutely not. James murmured softly. Thomas cast a quick look at his brothers and, spoken with clarity for all to catch the words. Is she perpetually this theatrical? Daniel chuckled softly behind his book. And even Sarah concealed a smile. Victoria burned with irritation. This is too much for me to handle. Time is essential for me to ponder. She whirled around and marched out with determination. Once more, silence enveloped the space. James examined his sons with greater scrutiny. Michael, guarded. Thomas, striking. Daniel, calm and perceptive. He had missed 6 years of their lives. The wedding is just 2 weeks away. He spoke in a gentle whisper. We understand. They spoke together. I simply need to work through this. James included. Sarah rose to her feet. Absolutely. Young men, bid farewell to your father. That, the word struck him with the force of a blow to the heart. Michael was the first to approach, offering a hand with elegance. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir. Thomas gestured nonchalantly. Your coding work at TechVision truly stands out. Daniel offered a subtle nod, gripping his novel tightly. Upon their departure, James shouted, Hold on. What do you enjoy the most? All things. I desire to uncover all there is to know. Sarah hesitated at the threshold. Stop by tomorrow. We can have a conversation. Everyone. James gave a slight nod, struggling to articulate my thoughts. Once they departed, he remained seated, gazing at his image in the glass. 3 young lads. 3 remarkable young men who had matured in his absence, as he was preoccupied with constructing his legacy. The phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Triumphant prose. Weddings delayed. I require some distance. Inaugurally, James Mitchell found himself without a distinct direction. There is no plan in place. Lost in uncertainty. And that frightened him less than the thought of losing his sons once more. They are currently in slumber. As she stepped onto the porch, Sarah spoke to James. A week had gone by since the rehearsal dinner. They are truly exceptional. James whispered softly. I'm still working through the events of the evening. He had dedicated time to playing games with them. Michael triumphed over me in chess. He consistently emerges victorious. Thomas gained unauthorized access to my phone. He excels in that area. Daniel continues to immerse himself in that quantum physics book. Sarah beamed with joy. They absolutely belong to you. James glanced in her direction. Why didn't you share that with me? The true motivation. Sarah paused, lost in thought, observing the fireflies twirl gracefully in the garden. Do you recall the week prior to my departure? I was finalizing the Series A. I attempted to convey that I wasn't feeling my best. Yet each time you were engaged in a call, James reminisced about the moment. Her ghostly visage lingered at his office threshold. He waved her away while engaging with the investors. The moment I discovered I was expecting, you were preparing for an important presentation. She proceeded with a serene demeanor. You mentioned that today, nothing can pull my focus away. The future of TechVision hinges on this. Sarah, I observed you that morning, refining your presentation. You repeatedly mentioned that TechVision is your pride and joy, the mark I leave behind. She gazed at him. I have come to a decision. Is it your little one or ours? That seems unjust. James voiced his objections. Absolutely not. Sarah spoke, her voice unwavering. Not for you. Not for them. Yet, fear gripped me. And unwell. Each day, I witnessed you prioritizing your company above us. James sank into his chair, a heavy weariness settling over him. I would have transformed. Could you? Sarah inquired gently. Speak truthfully. If I had shared that with you back then, what actions would you have taken? He pondered over it. His youthful self, driven by aspirations and the pursuit of achievement. I'm uncertain. I certainly do, Sarah remarked. You would have eagerly invested in it, established trust funds, assistants acquired, and managed to fit in visits around board meetings. Yet they required something beyond that. A guardian was essential. This is not a portfolio. What is it that they require at this moment? He inquired. Why not pose the question to them? Sarah rose to her feet. Additionally, they are wide awake. They might be listening in at the door as we speak. A sharp thump, quickly followed by the sound of rushing feet, validated her instinct. James let out a soft laugh. They absolutely belong to me. Absolutely. Sarah spoke softly. Indeed they are. But are you prepared to take on the role of their father? Before he had the chance to respond, once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. Victoria's. The name illuminated the display. Sarah observed. It would be best to respond to that. It appears you have some choices ahead of you. She abandoned him on the porch, gazing at his device, contemplating the essence of legacies. The one he had created, and the one he nearly. Adrift. Greetings. The board meeting is set to commence in 10 minutes. James received a reminder from his assistant during a phone call. Discontinue it. He replied. However, sir, the projections for the quarter. Tom is more than capable of managing it. James made a subtle adjustment to his rearview mirror, observing, the gateway to the primary school. I'm treating my sons to lunch today. He concluded the conversation just as 3 identical boys emerged from the school. Their expressions brightened as they caught sight of his Tesla. Firearm. Thomas exclaimed loudly. Absolutely not. I have 4 more minutes of age than you. Michael contended. In the meantime, Daniel eased himself into the back seat with a hushed grace, completely engrossed in a novel. Each person has their moment, James remarked, astonished by how effortless this seemed after just 14 days. Michael on this day. Thomas is scheduled for tomorrow. Next up is Daniel. Just, they reverberated. At the burger joint they chose. James observed as they eagerly consumed their meal, bombarding him with inquiries. Is it true that you wrote your first program at the age of 8? Thomas inquired, his mouth stuffed with fries. 7, in fact. It was indeed a straightforward game. My mother mentioned that you crossed paths at a technology conference. Michael interjected. She was showcasing an educational software. James remembered, beaming. Totally eclipsed my presentation. Daniel lifted his gaze from the pages of his book. Are you there? Are you still planning to tie the knot? The inquiry lingered, suspended in the atmosphere. James set aside his burger. Victoria and I, we are spending some time away from each other, due to our influence. Michael's voice was barely a whisper. Absolutely not. James asserted with conviction. I must clarify my priorities. Mother states that this is the reason for your previous breakup. Thomas remarked with contemplation. Poorly placed priorities. James gazed at their youthful, insightful expressions. Your mother had a point about many matters. She tends to be. Daniel muttered softly. James's phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. Yet another challenge at work. Yet another board member seeking his attention. He powered down the phone. Who's in the mood for some ice cream? Every single hand leaped up with enthusiasm. Until next time. As James returned them to school, he sensed an unfamiliar presence. Tranquility. Don't worry about stock prices. No agreements hanging over his head. 3 boys bidding farewell. Stains of ice cream adorning their uniforms. His assistant was likely unraveling. The board was probably in disarray. Victoria had indeed left several voicemails. However, for the initial encounter, James Mitchell was acutely aware of what mattered most to him. As they made their way back to school, arguing over who will claim the front seat for tomorrow's journey, Victoria discovered James in his home office later on, encircled by laptops showcasing youth soccer schedules. "Is this what you've been up to?" she inquired, clutching a youth baseball catalog. "Why is our wedding falling apart?" James reduced his presence. "The displays. It's time for a conversation. What can you tell me about your hidden family? Or the wedding planner you've disregarded?" "Either option works," he remarked, motioning towards a seat. "Please take a seat." She stood her ground, with arms crossed. "I have exercised a great deal of patience, James. I've allowed you the time to handle this on your own. They aren't this Victoria. Those are my sons. You've just encountered your sons. Children that were kept from your sight. Doesn't that stir up some frustration in you?" James inclined himself, returned, contemplating. "Initially, yes. Yet Sarah accurately captured the essence of my identity during that time. What comes next? Who have you become?" Victoria's tone became gentler. "Because the man I was destined to wed was constructing a grand empire, not organizing youth baseball matches. I'm attempting to manage both tasks. Either one." She let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. "This week, 3 board meetings have been canceled. The microtech deal is experiencing delays. Whispers abound in the media. The organization will endure. But shall we?" James locked his gaze with hers. "It varies. Are you able to understand that my priorities have changed? Moved? They've entirely turned around." She responded while walking back and forth. "There was a time when you claimed that nothing was more important than the future of technological innovation. I acknowledge my mistake. Were you? Observe the outcome of that determination." She waved her hand to encompass the entire room. "This existence we were meant to experience together. A life constructed from relentless toil and fleeting opportunities lost." James remarked while on his feet. "I won't be missing their lives. So you are selecting them. I have decided to embrace the role of their father. Done with being your husband. Tired of being the person you once adored." He spoke softly. "That man simply wouldn't have made a good father. And likely not a great partner either." Victoria let out a heavy sigh as she gently took off her engagement ring, setting it down on his desk. "Farewell, James." At the threshold, she hesitated. "Those boys are fortunate, without a doubt. This iteration of you could genuinely be a valuable presence as a father." Once she departed, James revisited the soccer schedules. 3 teams had available positions. His team would require equipment, tire, footwear designed for traction, protective gear for the lower legs. His phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. A message from Sarah. "The boys are eager to find out if you will be attending their science fair tomorrow." James beamed with delight. He's in the process of freeing up his schedule. Certain choices come effortlessly. "The figures are unmistakable, James," Tom's CFO remarked. He pushed the quarterly report across the table with a deliberate motion. "Since the revelation of your personal matters, our market value has declined by 15%. James meticulously examined the document, perceiving the strain in the atmosphere. 8 executives remained quiet, their expressions unreadable. Their expressions were a blend of concern and discontent. "Private concerns?" James reiterated. "Are you referring to my kids? The timing is rather unfortunate." Patricia from the legal team interjected, "Particularly in light of the microtech acquisition. My sons are not victims of bad timing." James responded with conviction. "Proceed to the next topic. There will be no subsequent issue." Tom was adamant. "This is it. In the past 2 months, there have been 6 important meetings that you did not attend. The media is stoking speculation regarding shaky leadership. Investors are feeling uneasy. Allow them to feel anxious." James rose to his feet. "The meeting has concluded. The work is not yet complete." Patricia expressed her disagreement. "Indeed we are. I have a meeting with my child's teacher at 3 o'clock." As whispers circulated in the boardroom. As James made his way toward the door, Tom's voice rang out, calling after him. "The board is contemplating a vote of no confidence." James took a moment to reflect, then with a deliberate slowness turned. This company is a product of your efforts. Tom pressed on. However, it appears that your attention has shifted to other matters recently. The household is turning into a diversion. James made his way back to the table, leaning forward, hands resting on the smooth surface. Let's clarify things. The importance of a tech vision resonates deeply with me. However, if I must decide between this organization and my children, the result may not be to your liking. Are you implying something menacing? Absolutely not. James lifted himself upright. As a commitment, I possess the majority of the shares. A single phone call. This board is hereby dissolved. Patricia struggled to manage her papers. That would ruin the stock. Please don't put me in a position to decide. James examined his. Observe. At this moment, pardon me for a moment, the teacher of my son is currently awaiting. Inside his vehicle, James relaxed his tie, releasing a long breath. His phone showed 3 missed calls from potential backers, 2 from public relations, and another from Sarah. He returned Sarah's call. How was the meeting? Shall we proceed? She inquired, just as anticipated. How are the lads? Thrilled to present their report cards. Even Daniel managed to score an A in PE. James beamed with delight. The tension of the boardroom dissipates, leaving a sense of calm in its wake. Inform them that I'm en route. He ended the call and ignited the engine, glimpsing his image in the rearview mirror. The man glancing over his shoulder was no longer the same individual who had extended an invitation to his ex-wife for his wedding just 2 months prior. The man would have opted for the company. This individual acted without hesitation. Father, take a look at this. Thomas teetered on his skateboard in the backyard. Exercise caution. James extended his hand just as Thomas stumbled. However, Michael had already arrived, supporting his brother. He always seems to ignore what I say. Michael let out a deep breath, resonating with the essence of Sarah. The backyard had become a vibrant collection of sports equipment, a treehouse that remains incomplete, and 3 matching bicycles. Daniel rested on the grass, his legs folded comfortably beneath him, alternating between reading a book and viewing his siblings. Father, Daniel made a call. Could you provide an explanation of quantum entanglement? Once he assists me with my code. Thomas cut in, abandoning his skateboard, following the completion of my science project. Michael contributed. James experienced a surge of blissful excitement. Step by step. Thomas, let's examine the code closely. They huddled around Thomas's laptop, whispers shared in intimacy. James highlighted the absence of a semicolon and provided an explanation. The flaw in reasoning. Seeing Thomas glow with excitement as the program executed flawlessly. At this moment, what about quantum entanglement? Daniel inquired. Optimistic. Priority is the science project. Michael was adamant. The deadline is tomorrow. Is it happening tomorrow? James scowled. Why was this not brought up sooner? Michael bowed his head. You attended that significant investor meeting. James lowered himself to connect with his son's gaze. Pay attention. Your assistance is my top priority. Understood? The 3 boys all nodded in agreement. Yet, James noticed the way they shared doubtful glances. He had recently missed 2 weekend visits due to work commitments. They were monitoring the situation closely, just as he had with his own father. A new guideline has been established. James proclaimed, I'm done dancing around my schedule. If you require my assistance, share your thoughts with me. Agreement? Agreed. Thomas celebrated with a high five. That person. Is it really happening at 3 a.m.? Daniel inquired with a grave expression. Is that even possible at 3 a.m.? James beamed with delight. Mom mentioned that you used to stay up working until 3 a.m. Michael took note. She is correct. James responded. However, circumstances evolve. Individuals evolve. Once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. A call from a board member. James dismissed it without a second glance. At this moment, the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, he remarked, shifting focus to Daniel. Imagine it as three siblings. The afternoon unfolded in a dance through the realms of physics, programming, and Michael's project on volcanoes. James found himself with glue tangled in his hair. Grass stains marred his shirt, and a fresh recognition of Sarah's enduring patience. Upon her arrival to collect the boys, she discovered them entirely enveloped in a mixture of baking soda and vinegar. The volcano performed its function, Michael declared with pride. Ultimately, Thomas included. Following the third explosion, Daniel provided clarification. Sarah arched an eyebrow at the state of James's shirt. Absolutely worthwhile, he silently articulated. Her lips curved into a smile. In a fleeting instant, James caught a fleeting glimpse of the way she once gazed at him. Prior to the establishment of the company, prior to the unceasing pursuit of achievement, when there was clarity instead of disillusionment. Mr. Mitchell, your immediate focus is required on these documents. The announcement came from James's attorney, arranging papers meticulously on the surface of James's home office desk. Taking a quick look at the opening page, James perused the pages. Financial support for your sons. This is common among individuals with significant wealth. Instances. The attorney adjusted his spectacles. Establish an individual trust for everyone. Accessible upon reaching the age of 25. Set it to 21. James chimed in. Greetings. Taking into account the total. They are kids who take their responsibilities seriously. James reflected on Michael's careful and detailed preparation, the creative brilliance of Thomas, and Daniel's serene insight. I have faith in them. Absolutely. Subsequent documents emerged regarding the company's shares and a fair division among them. The attorney paused, contemplating the next move. Mr. Mitchell, that constitutes nearly 40% of Tech Vision. They will handle it. It's great that they're getting a head start on coding, James remarked, signing with unwavering confidence. A throat cleared from the entrance. Victoria remained in place, composed yet apparent, disheartened. Indeed, it is true. She spoke with a chill in her voice. You are relinquishing your dominion. Victoria, I arrived to bring back a few items. She flung a tiny box onto his desk. I understand there are changes happening within the company structure. At this moment, it all becomes clear. The attorney quietly assembled his papers. I will ensure these are filed promptly. There was a time when they existed, isolated. Victoria grasped one of the trust documents. Countless. In an instant, they are my offspring. James responded. Young ones? She let out a derisive laugh, letting the paper fall to the ground. They are individuals connected by the same genetic thread. She locked her eyes onto him. The board reached out to me, They worry that you might be losing your grip on reality. James let out a soft laugh. What does it mean to be a father? To dismantle all that you've built? Victoria's carefully maintained exterior started to fall apart. The James the first was familiar with wouldn't. The James you were familiar with lacked depth. He remarked, rising to one's feet. He gauged achievement through investments and transactions. At this moment, I gauge it through science fairs and soccer matches. Victoria observed him with keen interest. You've transformed. I prefer to believe it's for the best. She grasped her box. At the entrance, she pivoted. Those young men, they had better prove their value. James reflected on Michael's instinct to shield others, Thomas's daring concepts, and Daniel's curious intellect. He'd spent years, overlooked, and moments he would not let slip away. Indeed they are, he remarked. They hold immense value. Once she departed, James reached out to Sarah. Are the boys still up? There are attempts to breach the school's grading system. Sarah chuckled softly. Inform Thomas that his actions are not ethical. Go ahead and tell him. Are you still planning to join us for dinner? James cast a quick look at the youth. Documents strewn across his workspace. Files concerning finances, strength, and heritage. Everything was inconsequential. I can't imagine passing it up. Daniel, your father has arrived. Sarah shouted up the stairs. The comforting aroma of lasagna wafted through the home. James had been dedicating more of his time to that place recently, captivated by the structured disorder of assignments, interactive entertainment, and three boys gradually discovering how to welcome him into their world. Father, Thomas raced down the stairs. I resolved the issue in that application. The one featuring the schedule meltdown. He came to a sudden halt, noticing the arch of Sarah's eyebrow. What I'm trying to say is, the completely hypothetical application we aren't creating just for enjoyment. Sarah trembled, her mind concealing a grin. At least he inherits the penchant for bending the rules from you. Next, Michael made his entrance. Clipboard firmly grasped. Father, would you be able to sign this, please? It's for the upcoming robotics competition next week. James extended his hand toward a pen. Proceed. What about the week? Michael made the necessary corrections. I've mentioned it 3 times already. James stood still. The gathering of the board. A hush fell over the room. Daniel, who had recently descended the stairs, shared glances with his brothers. Everything is okay. Michael spoke in haste. Mom is capable. Negative. James interjected, composing a brief message. The meeting is flexible and can be rescheduled. Is it not significant? Daniel inquired. This holds greater significance. James remarked, completing the form. At what time should I arrive? Michael's expression lit up. 9 o'clock in the morning. Round 2. At the dinner table. James noticed the easy flow of interaction between Sarah and the boys. Their private humor. The silent interactions. The collective past he had overlooked. You're rather reserved. As they washed dishes together, Sarah commented thoughtfully, contemplating the essence of time. He remarked, presenting her with a plate. Perilous subject. There was a great deal that eluded me. Their initial utterances. Initial strides. You have arrived. Sarah responded. I appreciate your unwavering choice to accept my invitation. She chuckled softly. This isn't a highlight for me. It was flawless. James remarked. Desiccation. Those hands of his. You were fully aware of your actions. I understood that you had to witness them, to understand what you had lost. From the heart of the home, the clamor of a sibling dispute over video game controllers resonated. I understand it now. James murmured gently. Sarah's fingers grazed his arm for a fleeting moment. I understand that you do. The moment stretched on, holding its breath. Electrified. Still serene. Subsequently, from the other room, Daniel's voice echoed. Father, let's resolve this matter. Thomas is at it again, being unfaithful. I am not. Indeed, they are. James and Sarah shared a knowing look filled with humor. Responsibilities await, she remarked with a grin. James made his way toward the ruckus. For his children, to the existence he ought to have embraced ages past. It is preferable to arrive late than not at all. James found himself in the confines of his doctor's office. His gaze was unwavering. In his hands, the MRI report lay open. The words appeared to spring from the page with vibrant energy. Intense. Half a year. Restricted choices for treatment. Mr. Mitchell. Dr. Roberts inclined slightly, a soft gesture of engagement. Shall I revisit the options for you? James gave a slight shake of his head, delicately creasing the documents. Negative. I comprehend. He stepped into a haze, his thoughts whirling. Only a mere 3 months have passed. He had brushed off the headaches as mere stress, the lightheadedness from exhaustion. Upon arriving at his vehicle, the phone vibrated with a sudden buzz. A message from Michael. Defeated Tommy at chess once more. When will you be stopping by? James came to a stop, overcome by a flood of emotions. How was he meant to explain it to 3 10-year-old boys? The father they had only just come to know. No was already fading into the distance. He picked up the phone and called Sarah. James, shouldn't you be? I must see you. Isolated. His tone likely unsettled her. I'll see you at the cafe close to your workplace. After a span of 20 minutes, Sarah entered the room, gazed upon him, and requested 2 potent beverages. How terrible, she inquired softly. He deftly pushed the papers across the table. Her hands started to shake as she absorbed the words on the page. Half a year. Her voice trembled. If fortune smiles upon me, therapy could prolong the situation somewhat. However, a remedy remains elusive. Sarah covered her eyes with her hands. The lads. I understand. James responded with an empty tone. I've come to understand how to embrace my role as their father. At this moment, please refrain from making that statement. She took hold of his hand. Perseverance is essential. I refuse to surrender. I'm being pragmatic. He retrieved additional documents. All updates have been completed. Confidence, equities, custodianship. Cease. Your presence is essential to them. Negative. Documentation. They require their father. They possess you. James tightened his grip on her hand. You have always been sufficient. Sarah began to weep quietly. What's the best way to convey this to them? James inquired softly. In unity, she remarked. As we ought to. I have consistently done this. Once more, his phone vibrated with a notification. Thomas on this occasion. Daniel asserts that quantum entanglement is not comparable to triple telepathy. You made a commitment to clarify. James gazed intently at the message, experiencing the heaviness of moments fading into the past. Excess has been squandered. Not enough remains. This evening. He made his choice. We will share the news with them this evening. Sarah nodded, dabbing at her tears. They possess more strength than we realize. They are young ones. James managed a feeble grin. Absolutely, they certainly are. For a brief moment, they lingered in quietude. 2 parents bracing themselves for a conversation they never thought they would have. Bound together by their affection for the young men who merit far more moments than life allows them. James reflected on all the moments that had slipped through his fingers, and all the ones he would never have the chance to behold. Commencements, initial encounters, university, yet he possessed it now. He experienced today. It must suffice. Later, James found himself at his desk, immersed in thought. Before him lay 3 leather-bound journals, their pages invitingly ajar. His hands trembled from the medication, compelling him to write at a deliberate pace. Dear Michael, he started. You are the guardian, the individual who ensures that your siblings consume their greens and complete their assignments. Just as I witnessed you catch Thomas when he tumbled off his skateboard. He hesitated, battling a surge of lightheadedness. He had been given 4 months by the doctors. He aimed to seize each moment fully. In the second journal, he penned, Dear Thomas, your thoughts resonate with my own, perpetually forging onward, noticing links that escape others' attention. Yet you possess something I never had, the bravery to prioritize individuals over achievement. The third journal proved to be the most challenging. Dear Daniel, your inquisitive nature about the universe brings to mind your mother in such a vivid way. Your relentless curiosity about all things, perpetually in pursuit of profound insights. Every journal contained its own special memories. For Michael, the insights into leadership arrived after the moment had passed. For Thomas, tales of triumph and defeat. For Daniel, the fundamental concepts that influenced his existence. In the intervals between his writing sessions, he dedicated every available moment to the boys, instructing Michael on the intricacies of chess strategies, collaborating with Thomas to troubleshoot code, engaging in a conversation about physics with Daniel. Sarah observed intently, capturing every detail with her phone. The boys are aware of his illness. She would say gently, they had managed the news more gracefully than anticipated, harnessing their collective knowledge to explore potential therapies, questioning the medical professionals. We will persist, Michael asserted each day. There is always a way forward, Thomas asserted. Daniel highlighted that statistics can be misleading. James penned his thoughts under the cover of darkness, undeterred by the pain that lingered and kept him from sleep. Do you recall the day we constructed that volcano? Is this your inaugural robotics competition? The moment you accessed my phone without permission? Each memory is invaluable, every instant immortalized on the page. He adorned the margins with diagrams, straightforward codes, and maps reflecting the lessons he had grasped only after the fact. Primarily, he contributed to each journal. Keep in mind that true success goes beyond mere wealth or achievements. It's defined by instances such as these. The journals accumulated in volume. His vigor diminished, yet the words continued to pour forth. For his children, for what lies ahead, for every dialogue shared, they would never have the opportunity to experience. Are you prepared for this? Sarah inquired while she meticulously straightened James's tie. He offered a subtle nod, preserving his energy. 3 months had passed since the diagnosis, and today marked Michael's second robotics competition. Their squad had made it to the championship match. Sarah mentioned that the boys are already there. Michael feels anxious. James offered a subtle smile. There is no justification for his feelings. He is exceptionally talented. Upon entering the lively school gym, James quickly caught sight of his sons. Their golden locks dipped low as they focused intently on the robot, making final adjustments. "Father," they hurried over, wrapping him in a gentle embrace, mindful of his vulnerability following his recent hospital visit. "How is our champion faring?" James inquired. "The servo motor is misbehaving." Before Michael had the chance to respond, Thomas interjected. "However, the calculations are precisely accurate." Daniel interjected. James scrutinized the robot with great attention. "Allow me to take a look." They all leaned in over the circuits and code, reminiscent of the days gone by. Even though his hands shook excessively, his mind stayed keen and alert. He gestured in that direction. "The connection is not secure." With deft hands, Thomas made the necessary adjustments, and the robot sprang to life with a satisfying whir. 2 minutes to start," the announcer declared. "Mother?" Michael inquired with a hint of anxiety. "Is it possible for Dad to remain until the conclusion?" Sarah cast a quick look at James, aware that he ought to be taking it easy. "Nothing could sway me," James declared with conviction. The competition was fierce, yet Michael's team navigated each round with determination, while James looked on, filled with pride as he witnessed his son lead with poise and assurance. In the finale, their robot executed flawlessly. As Michael's team emerged victorious, James let out the loudest cheer, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "We accomplished it." Michael dashed toward his parents, tightly holding the trophy. "You accomplished it," James noted gently. "Each and every one of you." Later at home, James observed his son reveling in joy. Sarah noticed him, understanding the poignant mix of emotions reflected in his gaze. Without a hint of hesitation, she murmured. "Only one," he answered, observing the boys share their laughter. "Insufficient time." With a gentle grasp, Sarah intertwined her fingers with his. "You've provided them with all the essentials." James reflected on the journals he had crafted, brimming with insights, recollections, and affection. Nearly everything, he whispered, as he observed his sons, Michael's leadership, Thomas's creativity, and Daniel's wisdom. He realized that Sarah had been correct all along. They represented his enduring impact, his crowning achievement. Years later, Sarah found herself in the backyard, observing the now 15-year-old boys collaborating on laptops in the treehouse that James had constructed for them. Now their programming workshop. "Mother," Thomas is calling from downstairs. "We've discovered yet another." She ascended to join them in their Mitchell Brothers tech lab, where 3 matching smiles welcomed her. "Observe," Michael gestured towards the screen. Concealed within their father's vintage code lay yet another delightful surprise. One of the numerous ones he had discreetly placed before he departed. Small notes, insights about life, and challenges hidden for them to discover. Keep in mind that achievement devoid of loved ones is merely figures displayed on a monitor. Daniel recited the words with clarity. Sarah held the tattered journal tightly on her lap. One of the 3 James had been left behind. The boys continued to delve into them frequently, uncovering fresh insights as they matured. "He would be incredibly proud of you," she murmured gently. "Indeed he would." Michael gave a slight nod. Now serving as class president and having gained admission to MIT, Thomas celebrated his third coding championship victory, while Daniel's contributions to quantum physics had garnered interest from CERN. Yet beyond their achievements, they were truly kind individuals. Compassionate, encouraging, together. "Hello, Mom." Thomas smiled broadly. "Do you recall the time Dad arrived with that wedding invitation, seemingly intent on causing me pain?" Sarah chuckled softly. "His greatest blunder." Michael beamed with delight. Daniel shut his laptop with a decisive click. "Do you believe he realized, in the end, the profound impact he had on our lives?" Sarah recalled the last moments of James's life. He was present at every school event, capturing each moment and writing relentlessly, even when his hands struggled to keep up. He was aware, as she mentioned. "You transformed his life as well." The boys resumed their coding, their heads huddled closely together, as is their custom. From the vantage point of the treehouse, Sarah gazed out at the garden where James had introduced them to soccer, the patio where they crafted their volcano project, and the very place where he had last embraced them in farewell. Their time together was brief, yet it felt flawless, just as James had envisioned it.